Take two, School of Light. We are in First Chronicles chapter 14. We are a non-profit through the mail correspondence Bible study course for ages 4 through adult. We have them in multiple languages for ages 4 through adult. Advanced courses can yield college credit. Teddy. And so just let me know. If you want some, we'll send them. Okay, chapter 14, First Chronicles, David's house and family. Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David along with cedar logs, stonemasons, and carpenters to build a place for him. And David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel and that his kingdom had been highly exalted for the sake of his people Israel. In Jerusalem, David took more wives and became the father of more sons and daughters. These are the names of the children born to him there. Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishua, Eliphet, Elpelet, Noga, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishma, Beliada, and Eliphelet. David defeats the Philistines. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, they went up in full force to search for him. But David had heard about it and went out to meet them. Now the Philistines had come and raided the valley of Rephaim. So David inquired of God, "Shall I go and attack the Philistines? Will you hand them over to me?" The Lord answered him, "Go, I will hand them over to you." So David and his men went up to Baal Perazim, and there he defeated them. And he said, "As waters break out, God has broken out against my enemies by my hand." So that place was called Baal Perazim. The Philistines had abandoned their gods there, and David gave orders to burn them in the fire. Once more, the Philistines raided the valley, so David inquired of God again, and God answered him, "Do not go straight up, but circle around them and attack them in the front of the balsam trees. As soon as you hear the sound of marching at the tops of the balsam trees, move out in battle, because that will mean that God has gone out in front of you to strike the Philistine army." So David did as God commanded him, and they struck down the Philistine army all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. So David's fame spread throughout every land, and the Lord made all the nations fear him. So what do we learn? David married more wives, had more daughters, had more sons. Then, in this instance of the Philistines coming to, when they heard about David, they came to gather against him full force and search for him. And then David says something along the lines of, "God, shall I go and attack the Philistines? Will you hand them over to me?" And then you have the illustration of, let's see, So once more, this is not the first one. The Philistines raided the valley, so David inquired of God again, and God answered him, "Do not go straight up, but circle around them and attack them in the front of the balsam trees as the top." Correction. "As soon as you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the balsam trees, move out in battle, because that will mean that God has gone out before you or in front of you to strike the Philistine army." Such a interesting picture. Imagine you being in an army against another army, probably a larger army, and being in this situation, and you say, "God, should we, are you going to," he says, "Yeah, I'll hand them over to you, but don't attack them from the front, circle around them, but wait till you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the balsam tree." What is that sound of marching? It's like, right? Steps. In wind, you don't hear that. When it goes to the trees, you don't hear the marching sound. So something's going on there where God was doing something. And I guess it's all left to speculation. You could say God, was his angels were in the tops of the balsam trees. You could say spiritual chariots, you could spiritual soldiers, spiritual warfare. I mean, there could be a lot of things that would explain that. But it does. I guess it really doesn't matter what the. I mean, of course, it does matter what the truth is on this, but the point being, I guess, is that God said, "Wait for this to happen," and it was something that wouldn't be man-made, obviously, and they waited for that to happen. They seen it happen, and then they took action. So apply that to your life. God bless.